Hello, everybody, and welcome to Galome Elevation Talks. My name is Tumelo, also known as your favorite Galome. On this week's very first episode, we will be featuring Guy Anthony, who is the founder of Black Gifted and Whole. He is also an award-winning artivist, community leader, and philanthropist. Guy was diagnosed with HIV as a teen and has since dedicated his entire adult life to the pursuit of neutralizing local and global HIV and AIDS related stigmatization. One of his most notable works was Positively Beautiful, Affirmations, Advocacy, and Advice on World AIDS Day in 2012. This collection of inspiring narratives, raw imagery, and affirmations, anecdotes has earned Guy much acclaim, including being named one of the top 100 HIV prevention leaders under 30 by Pause magazine, one of the top 100 LGBTQ emerging leaders to watch by National Black Justice Coalition, and one of DBQ magazine's Loud 100, which happens to be the only LGBTQ list of 100 influential people of color. Now, this man's resume is a lot. It's a lot. He's got a lot going on, yeah? And I could go on describing all the amazing work he's done, all the advocacy, all his awards, but you can Google that, okay? So please welcome Guy as he recites one of his original poems titled Freedom in This Village, and stick around for the Q&A after.
Freedom in This Village. I wrote this after the deaths of Black queer bodies, Black queer trans women, and especially after it was announced that Jussie Smollett was attacked via a homophobic attack. And so whether you believe it or not, at that moment, my heart poured out for him and so many others like him, and I wrote this poem. So Freedom in This Village by Guy Anthony. God bless the child that bears strange fruit, who was left to the wild to fend for his food. With nothing left to pillage, he relents to his tomb, 'cause ain't no freedom in this village for men who love like we do. And if only Rashawn knew when he passed Koahu, that opening up his front door would be the last thing he'd do. He was found underground, body cut up in two, little pieces thrown around like yesterday's news. Who will cry for Jamel, who met death much too soon, and his own little hell from the drugs he consumed? He was trying to escape, run away from the gloom, but to wolves he was prey under Hollywood's moon. And what about Devon? Heard he just finished school, shot down in his home by a love that he knew. Relocated to Houston to start life anew. Never thought in his looking, it's his life he would lose. So God bless the child who bears strange fruit. For Rashawn Brazil, Jamel Moore, and for Devin Wade too. I pray we find freedom in this village one day soon.
Wow. I'm actually shaking right now. I mean, I was obviously shaking beforehand, but I'm actually shaking.
Don't shake. It is. I am someone. I'm sure we'll get into it, but I have been molested growing up. I've been sexually assaulted, and the result is HIV, something that I'll live with for the rest of my life. And these are real things that have happened to real people. And the only way that I can convey how my heart hurts a lot for us is through my poetry, through my raps, through Black Gifted and Whole, just creating a
Mm.
pipeline, just trying to, and I'm so imperfect, but I believe that my heart is perfect in the sense that I'm always trying to create something else for someone else. And my
Oh.
blessings have come to me because of that. And I don't take that light. I don't take that weight lightly, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, but that's it.
Always trying to create something for someone else. That's actually so beautiful. I think in
Oh,
my life as well, I try to live a very selfless life,
yeah.
where it's all about the other people and, touching their lives, having an impact in their lives.
Yeah.
But before we get into the very deep, conversation,
Okay.
I'd
I'm
just
ready.
like to say I am so grateful for having you on here today.
Oh,
For my first guest.
I'm excited.
This is a lot for me as well. But thank you so much for coming on here to share your experiences. And I'm here to learn and to listen as well.
Awesome.
And I've watched a lot of your other interviews, and you have a lot of wisdom.
Oh, thank you.
You have a lot.
Thank you so much.
But let's start off with the basics. How are you doing
No,
today? How's your day going?
today I'm good. I woke up not so good, if I'm honest.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just feeling down, but I had a wonderful Friday. I, invited some of my close friends over, and I make collard greens for them. I cook for
Collard
them.
greens. I've never had collard greens.
Baby, mine are the best. Mine are the best because I cook them with love. Like, I'm not just trying to rush the
Mm-hmm.
greens. Like, I'm
Okay.
washing. It's a spiritual thing for me to cook, and I don't cook often,
Mm.
but I cook things that my grandmother taught me how to cook. Right. So,
Mm-hmm,
like,
mm-hmm.
my grandmother is still living. My grandfather is not, unfortunately. But sometimes when I want to feel connected to my ancestors, to my roots, to my family, because I'm so far away, I make something that they make, and I call my
Mm-hmm,
grand. I
mm-hmm.
call my grandma, like, how do I make collard greens? She gave me like 4 ingredients. That's it. That's because grandmas know it's like a little bit of this,
A little bit of
so
that. Uh-huh.
that's it. And so I cooked for my friends, and we watched Black is King. I'm talking about we had like an outer body experience. Like, we were eating soul food and we were watching soul food.
Yeah.
Right?
All of it.
What?
You had all of
Oh,
it. Yeah, no, I feel
baby,
that. I feel
baby.
that.
It was a spiritual. I don't know how to explain it. If you know, I talk with my hands, like they're so big.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a.
Go at
It was
it.
it was just a spiritual connection, and these are all my friends that I've known literally half my life from Detroit, and we all live around each other. So it's just
Mm-hmm.
those kind of places where I'm feeling joy because I don't
Uh,
have joy every day. I have to create it, and it's not. I'm not unlike anybody else, but living with bipolar disorder, I'm always in limbo. I'm always up or
mm-hmm.
I'm down or I'm just completely like mellow and I don't want to be bothered. And
Yeah.
so after Friday, I took 2 days off from talking to anybody. I do that.
Mm.
And
Because
I
sometimes
woke
it's
up,
exhausting to be
it,
communicating with everybody.
it is the most, people think because I talk so much, right? Or,
Mm-hmm.
they watch my interviews and they think that I'm just like this vocal person. And in reality, like my job requires me to do that. Like I'm not
Uh-huh.
just
Uh-huh.
I'm not just necessarily out here in front of the camera because I want the shine. No,
Uh-huh.
I know that it's either silence or death,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like if I'm silent about these things, then it's death for my community, and
Yeah.
so that's why I'm out here talking about it. But that is exhausting,
I know what you mean.
especially dealing with what I deal with on a daily that I don't know how to articulate because people only really get to see the good things about me.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Okay.
let me stop.
Yeah, I'm glad you're doing good. I'm glad you're doing good.
Okay.
And I also see that you've been booked and busy.
I like to be
Hashtag
booked.
business is growing. Hashtag all of that.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I have your bio, and you sent me
Okay.
a whole bio,
I
and I
did. I
could
wanted you to
easily
take what
Google
you.
you. You gave me all of it.
I
And I
did.
could easily
Absolutely.
Google you, and boom, we have it all there. But in your
Yeah.
own words, who is Guy Anthony, and
Yeah.
what got you into the line of work that you're doing? I mean, this is where I think your story will come in.
Absolutely. Guy is a fighter. Guy is very headstrong. Guy is very insecure. broken in a lot of ways, but none of that matters when there's something to do for the community in
Mm.
Guy's Way. You feel honestly like I don't know where I get the strength and the energy from. Well, I do know. Okay, so I'm from Detroit, Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up as the only, well, not the only, but the last grandchild, the baby of like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
30 cousins, right? So everyone took care of me, my grandparents, my aunts, my uncles, my mom, like I was the baby. And so I like to just sort of give you that background because I was the one that was supposed to be in terms of the family. He is the
Mm.
one we are putting all of our interest in, he's going to be great. We've
Uh-huh.
made some
Uh-huh.
mistakes along the way, but this one, he's going to be great. And so I've gone through life with that really on my shoulder of having to be better than not everyone, but just to be better than things, right? And
Mm.
so that's how
Mm.
my family raised me, and for so long I really thought that I was invincible, and then I was molested, and that kind of changed everything.
Mm.
And then I was assaulted, and that kind of changed everything. And so there are two, and I often tell people like there are two lives that I remember. There's one, before molestation, and then one after molestation. And those
Mm.
are two very different guys. And so I am still learning who I am. I know the things that I put out into the universe. I know what I put out. But am
Mm-hmm.
I that? Am I just that? There are
Mm-hmm.
things
Mm-hmm.
that I've really held from sharing with other people in fear of people having this skewed vision or this idea of me that I have perfections. Even though I'm very honest about those imperfections, I still don't want
Yeah.
people to know that I have them.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think that my job in this life is to amplify the hurt and the pain of a community, of a specific community, Black queer
Mm-hmm.
folks that have experienced childhood abuse and assault.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And for the rest of my life, I think that that is going to be my narrative, no matter how much I try to deviate and be like a rapper, right? Like I'm like,
Uh,
because I'm like, there's so much more to me,
Hashtag
y'all.
Mr. Bagman.
I'm, but I'm also like I rap, like I study rap, like I study the greats. I
Mm-hmm.
study, my metaphors, and I go and I like slave over a rap song for probably longer than anybody thinks that I do before I send it off.
Mm.
So it's just like these are so many other facets, but I'm also really bound by this idea that people have of me, where it's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, he's
Mm-hmm.
the voice of people living with HIV, and so that puts a lot of weight on me a little bit, but
Yeah.
I understand that to whom much is given, much is required.
You're quiet. Yeah.
And so that is where I am. And so right now, I wrote my book, Positively Beautiful, in 2012
Mm-hmm.
because I was living in Atlanta at the time, and I was diagnosed 2 years earlier, and I was, had a little light cocktail party or gathering at our home in Atlanta, and there were a lot of my really good friends around, and most of them had HIV, but I was the only one that they
Mm.
had disclosed it to. And that's heavy, right? Like I understand that this is my charge, but also like that's heavy to know everybody's secret, their deepest, darkest
Yeah. Yeah.
secret.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a lot. That's a
That's a
lot.
lot. And I'm like 25 years old. I'm a baby, and
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
I that burden, I did not take it lightly. Let's be clear, that wasn't even a burden to me. I felt so honored that people would share that with me
Yeah.
because I knew what it took for me to get there. And so anyway,
Mm.
I decided to write a book just with my friends that were living with HIV in mind. This is before a lot of the HIV center books came out. And I wanted to make my book because I am an artist at heart. I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
make my book a guide that you wouldn't want to put down because it was so visually beautiful. And
Yeah.
so, I took time with scheduling photo shoots and interviewing my friends that wanted to be a part of the book. I asked them questions. I had them write letters to themselves pre-diagnosis. I made sure that they were styled impeccably. I made sure that my graphics were on par. Like I just wanted to,
Mm.
and I raised money for that to put that book out. And so I just really wanted something visually beautiful so that people didn't just look at it as a book about HIV, but like as a
Yeah.
as a guide on how to live and how to allow the space around you to be positively beautiful. And if I'm honest, that book took me. Without that book, I would not be here talking to you today. And everyone is just like, you know, I had that book changed my life, and I was just like, well, that book. It was either I write that or I die. There wasn't like, no, oh, I'm not going to do it. I had 10 people profiled in that book. 8 of them dropped out of it at the last minute.
Wow. So how many people did you have in the end of the book?
2, and then me. So 3.
Wow. And why do you think it is that they dropped out though?
Stigma, because this is way before, the HIV/AIDS strategy came into play. So no more, if I'm honest, people still were not really talking about living with HIV. There was a 3-year wait for the AIDS Drug Administration program in Atlanta. And I was fighting with people, and luckily I had people on my side that was able to connect me to care, but there were people dying because they were waiting for treatment, right? And essentially, like when our first meeting, I ordered, I took us to a Mexican restaurant in my neighborhood, and I ordered everybody drinks and food, and I'm like, this is the idea. They're like, we're on board, let's get it. And weeks later, they see that this is not just a gimmick. I'm not just talking about this, and that's the thing about me. I'm a doer. I'm not really a talker. I'm a doer. If you tell me something, I don't really have time for the semantics. I'm just getting down to it, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to send you a concept note, and we're going to move from there. And so after they found out that I was serious and that this book was actually going to print, they were like, "Oh, no, it's not too real." And I didn't fault them for that, because I'm not expecting anybody to be where I am in my journey, no matter how old they are. That's not, your journey is your journey, and that's okay. But for me and my journey, I have to put this book out.
That's true.
The two people that stayed on were my really good friends, Brandon and Chris, and they were like, "We're with you, babe." And so we rocked it. We had a screening. Not a screening, but a book release in Atlanta. Literally, there were no seats left.
Oh wow! You went all out for this, hey?
Because if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. And I'm gonna do it with a certain level of class and a high level of respect for you and the subject matter, and also for myself.
So that people know that when you release something, you're releasing quality. I love how when I asked you who is Guy Anthony, you talked about, I'm insecure. Normally that's something I wouldn't say. Like you're really showing me a different side, because most people, when you ask them, who is this person, they'll tell you the perfect side. I'm a lover. I'm a this, all the good stuff. I'm glad that you're really open about talking about that part of you. And to be quite honest, your story really did I've heard it. It really did inspire me to feature you on here, because I, for one, was sexually assaulted as well at the age of 12 by my cousin. This is the first time I'm speaking about this, but I feel like it's something that I've always been wanting to talk about. And now having you in this space, it just feels a little bit more comfortable for some reason, and I think this is another topic that we should have down the line. I feel like I should invite you again, but it's the concept of young gay men getting molested. This is something that happens quite often, and we don't really talk about it as much. And it's by family members, it's by strangers, it's by people around us. So I think it's something that we need to go off on and talk about as well, to protect the younger generations coming behind us. Now, back to the topic at hand. The day that you were diagnosed, do you remember that? And
absolutely,
what was the hardest part about finding out your status?
Well, let's remember, I was sexually assaulted 2 years prior to me actually being diagnosed. And so there was a moment, I was still very green to what HIV was and how it impacted the body. I just knew growing up that it was something that gay men got, and you don't ever want to get it because and it was a death sentence.
It was a stigma at some point. It was just a gay man thing.
still, even to this day, right? And so
Mm.
I grew up in a very religious household, and so that was. If you thought being gay was an abomination, baby,
Hmm.
having HIV or even talking about sex, like no one ever talked to me about sex, like no
Mm,
one,
mm,
and especially not gay sex.
mm. You
Hello,
and I both. My mama, the
so
first time my mom mentioned gay sex, she's a
yes,
healthcare worker. She talked about how if you have gay sex, like stuff's gonna
yes.
happen. You're gonna
Oh,
burst. Like, whoa, I think she was trying to scare me, but it didn't work,
well,
mom.
it didn't work. It does the opposite of what they think it's going to
Yeah,
do, right?
yeah.
And so essentially, like I was very green in that sense, but I was promiscuous because my body had been compromised at such a young
Mm,
age. And I didn't know the worth of my body, the value of my body. How would I have ever known that? And so,
mm,
the last time I had moved to so many different places because I was just trying to escape Detroit. I ended up living with this older guy that I met on Black Gay Chat. And yes, and he ended up treating me really badly. And then I met this other guy online on Black Gay Chat
mhm,
that said that he could help me and save me from this. I'm 19 years old. I have no job. I
mm,
have no money, no resources. I'm just
mm.
out here doing what I got to do to survive. And if that looked like sex work, if that looked like whatever I needed to do to survive, I was going to do that.
Had to
And
be
this
done.
time,
Mm,
it had to be done. And this time, this guy, I went over to hang out, and to make a long story tolerable, he ended up raping me and pushing me out of the house afterwards. And
mm,
I say within 3 days, I was deathly ill. I had just gone home to Detroit for Thanksgiving, so I'll never forget because I couldn't eat the food. And so
mm,
literally I'm throwing up, everything is going bad. And my parents, like my family's so like confused, like what is going on with Guy? They take me to the ER. I'm in there for like 3 days. All the tests come back inconclusive because at that time it was not protocol to give you an HIV test if you came through emergency.
mm.
So
Okay.
the hospital missed it, and they sent me home. They gave me hydration, everything. That is when I was seroconverting because of the illness. He had raped me, and did what he did, and he had so much HIV in his body that it almost took me out.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And from that day forward, I was celibate, and I got out of Detroit, and no, I got out of Philly because that's where I was living. And I
Mhm.
ended up, moving to Atlanta to go to school. Didn't work out, and I ended up in LA. And I just so happened to be walking past the LA Lesbian and Gay Center. Um, and my one of my close friends called me, like bawling and telling me that they were HIV positive.
Mm.
And I'm walking by a place to go get tested. Mind you, I knew.
Oh.
I knew.
Uh, uh.
You know.
How
I
do you
mean,
how do you know though? Is it a feeling? Was
yeah,
it your health?
it was my health. It was how sick I got directly
Mhm.
after the
Mhm.
race. I'd never been that sick before in my life. I like to think that I was, particularly healthy. And
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
19, right? So I'm fresh out of my parents' home. I didn't really have much going on. And the sickness immediately, and somehow the doctor, after they had told me, they said, yeah, your viral load was way too high. Like you have been infected for
Mm.
some time. Like we're so glad that you came in.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
Mhm.
literally, I remember getting the diagnosis, and I remember the therapist at the time who was so emotionless. It was like the worst feeling ever. They were just like,
Mm.
okay, your test came back, positive, and so now what? We're gonna move you to a therapist and have a consultation." And I'm like,
Mhm.
"What?" Like, so I was emotionless, and he asked me, he was like, "How do you feel?" I was like, "I knew." And I just remember like
Mm.
running down the stairs, and I believe this was on Santa Monica at this time. I ran to Santa Monica. I lived on Fuller and Hollywood Boulevard. I ran past my house,
Mm.
my apartment on Hollywood. I just ran. I didn't know where I was running to, but I just
Mm.
needed to run. And there have been plenty times in my life where I've run and I just don't know what from. But that day will never be forgotten to me because
Mhm.
that was the day that really my life changed.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
But I'm
So
thankful that it happened though. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So with that, who did you tell first? And was it because you felt inclined to tell them, or you just had to get that burden
Yeah.
off your shoulders and,
I told
you
one
know,
of my
have
best
someone
friends.
there for you.
I told one of
Mm-hmm.
my best friends, that was also diagnosed too. I have about 10 best friends, so it's like insane. But I told one of
Same.
them because they had just shared with me, and so um,
Mm,
for until 2009, so that was 2007, we had a pact, and that was the. But so I always talk about your tribe and how important it is to find your tribe and to
your
find.
tribe. Okay, tribe. Well, can you explain that a little bit? Your tribe.
So my tribe, the people that I had over, some of the people that I had over on Friday night, that's my
Mm-hmm.
tribe. Those
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
people, I could be a hot mess in front of them. I could be getting
Mm,
the highest medal of freedom from whomever. I'm still going to be the same person to them. It doesn't
mm,
matter.
mm,
They don't let
mm, mm,
the fame or the accolades change the perception of me because they have a respect for me, and I have a respect for them. Now
mm,
we fight, and these are all people. Surprisingly, most of them are from my hometown of Detroit. They just happen to
mm-hmm.
live in New York with me. So I often find people where my energy is not deflated if I'm around you.
Mm, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If
Mm-hmm.
if I know that I'm gonna see you and my energy is up and I'm excited, you're a part of my tribe. But if my energy
Mm.
decreased, even when I get a text message and we can be friends, and you like, hey, what you doing today? And I'm like,
Yeah. You're not my tribe.
you're not my tribe, right?
Mm,
It's
mm,
especially in times like this. Like I just needed to see them on Friday. That's it.
mm.
We didn't even have to do anything. I just needed to see
Yeah,
them.
to see and be in that presence with everything
And so
going on.
and if you just want to see someone and you get excited about that, they're your tribe.
I need to start rearranging my tribe because I don't know about some of the people in my life.
Well, then it's on you to get rid of them. This is your
Mm,
life. If I am never going to live my life feeling badly around people when I have a choice to not have them
to
around
not
me.
have them around. There's no point. I mean, I've had instances where I've almost cut out my whole family. So even
Oh,
family's not exempt from this.
no one's exempt. No one's exempt from the betterment of you at
mm,
the
mm,
detriment of you. So I don't care who it is. Granted, my family, they're great now, but I've had to
mm,
cut them off in the past too. Anybody,
mm.
I cut my own stuff off sometimes. I'm like,
Like, nah, get out. Child, get out.
I can be too much. I can be too much, but it's all good.
Uh-huh. So once you get your diagnosis, you tell
Yeah,
your best friend.
one of my best
Um,
friends. Yeah,
when does reality start to sink in and the journey to acceptance really start?
after I told my mom in
How
2009.
was that? How did that go, actually?
Well, I think another thing about me is I'm fearless in the sense that yes, I'm scared but fearless. I'm just a terrible conundrum. But
Mm,
essentially, I knew that I was going to write this book, but I was not going to include myself in that book. And
mm.
I asked one of them. I know. I asked because remember I had like 10 people, so I was like,
Mm.
oh, I have enough material. But then
Yeah,
it
yeah.
started to get less and less. And so I remember talking to one of my mentors, Craig Washington, and I wanted him to write the foreword for my book because he's brilliant.
Mhm.
And a long-term survivor living with HIV. And he read the manuscript and he's like, "Oh, I'm not writing it unless you put yourself in the book. You're
Oh,
not."
wow.
And so I have so many people that hold me accountable. Like no shade,
Mm.
I hold people accountable. Because you are what you say you're going to do, right? And you are what you
Yeah.
say you are. But so many people also hold me to the fire. Like, guy, you're brilliant, but you're basic too. So like, I'm not going to just write the foreword for your book and have you tell these wonderful stories of triumph and determination about other people when
But
you
not tell
too.
yours.
Exactly. So
Mm, mm,
he said, I'm going to give you 1 week to tell your mother. Because my thing was, I don't care about adding me to the book, but I just want my mom
mm,
to know first.
mhm,
She's the only
mhm,
person
mhm.
she literally to this day is the only person's opinion I care about. And
Mm,
so
mm,
I'm
mm.
a strong guy. I'm a tough guy. I called her and I said, "Are you sitting down?" She said, "Yeah, I'm sitting down." And we had the discussion, and I was free. And the next day, probably 2 days, because I needed some time to process that conversation. I talked to
Mm.
my mentor and I said, "Talk to her. Let's go."
Let's do this because your story is just as valid. Your story is just as important.
Thank you.
Regardless of whatever project you're working on or what you're going to speak on, your story is always valid and it's always important.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's young guy. Yeah. Hey. Yeah. Real shit. Hey. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Check it. He had addiction in his blood. He been fighting since he was young. He been squaring with them demons, but chasing what's on the run. Facing what he's become. Complacent, he feeling numb. Facing the losing battle, his patience is almost gone. But he don't mean no harm. He's sorry if you're alarmed, but it's just him against himself. They both improperly armed. Years of bodily harm is seeping through sweaty palms. 8 balls like napalm. He blowing them till they gone. So won't you please pick up the phone? He said it's 3 a.m. and all his demons fighting for the throne. Yo, Mr. Bagman, I'm calling you once again for 3.5 grams. I hope you understand. Damn, got me feeling like Pac-Man, running from Ghost again. Those running from all the sand.
And you know what? I love how you say your mom was the most important person to tell, and that's the only opinion. Honestly, that's how it is with my parents too. Everybody else,
Yeah.
like your opinion is okay, but
Yeah.
it doesn't really weigh heavy on me as
I don't
much.
care. I've never, and my mother, there's people think some people think I'm cold, and I've said this before, and I get that. And I do a lot of work on me. No one can tell me anything about me that I don't already know about myself. All right. I'm very introspective. And I also understand where I'm toxic in ways too. And, a lot of times people, see me as cold because I'm emotionless in certain instances where people would be very full of emotion. And I'm like, if you only knew what I've had to go through and keep a straight face through it, you would really understand that this stoic face is not, not valuing you. It is just, I got so many other things brewing behind here on how to get not just me free, but us free. That sometimes the small, minute stuff, I'm like, I don't got time for that because I'm always thinking about like, what's the bigger picture? Like, what are we really trying to accomplish? And I can't be down here in the mud with things that don't really impact the larger goal of
Yeah.
And we're trying to get free. And so, Mama, I love you, but I'm trying to get free, not just for me, but for so many other people. And your opinion is going to have to take a back seat.
This is bigger than me. It's way above me. Hey, it's above me now.
It's above me.
It's above me now. So, having told your mom and your friend, did this affect the way in which you interacted with any of your friends or family, or the way that they interacted with you? Did that have any kind of positive or negative effect on your relations?
The fact that they didn't ever bring it up again was possibly great to some people, but it was negative for me because I want to talk about it. Like, hey, ask me about my meds. Like, am I doing okay? And a lot of times, just because I'm okay with it doesn't mean that everybody else around me is, because I sometimes forget how people see me. I just see me as a regular guy that had something extraordinary happen to them and decided to pay it forward and do better. And if that makes me a great person to you, I'll take that. So I'm not really, no one treats me any differely at all. And sometimes I forget that I have HIV because they don't ever talk about it. Nobody talks about it around me. If it weren't the work that I do, then I probably wouldn't even talk about HIV, because even when I talk to my friends, they're like, "Guy, you're just Guy." Like, same asshole, same funny. You know, you still dress well. Like
nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed, and I think it's because I have that mindset that nothing's changed. So I have no choice but to be like, okay, well then nothing's changed. But maybe if I was, more honest with them sometimes and be like, hey, this HIV is getting a hold of me. Even recently, these days, every day I take a pill. And sometimes I forget or don't take the pill and I'm like, shit, I got HIV, I gotta take this pill. And some of the times you want to talk about it. And people don't really know how to have a conversation with you if they don't live with HIV.
Exactly.
Just like I don't really know how chemo works because I've never had cancer, and I don't, but I can give you like, I'm here for you. I love you. And that's what a lot of people can only give me because they really don't know what it's like.
So would you then say that leads you to having a tribe that maybe has been diagnosed with HIV, or just in general, people then tend to have tribes that are in the same level with them or have similar experiences?
Yeah, I think, but I'm kind of a collector of people, right? So I hoard people. So anywhere I lived in 6 different states, right? And I picked up people that I hoard in each of those different states. So I've sort of made them my tribe, but a lot of them, most of them don't even work in HIV. I maybe have one best friend that actually works in public health. So it's interesting. I have a tribe of people that I work with that, are in the struggle, that are living with HIV, and this is their mission. This is their life's work. And then I have mostly people that I am the only person they know with HIV. And so a lot of times they don't want to burden me with the questions because they all ask me the questions. And so I think that a lot of times that plays into the part of like the respect that they have for me, because even if they don't ask me, I'm sending them information about ACA. I'm sending them information about, drug pricing programs that could possibly affect them, and let's be clear, some of them may not have told me that they have HIV, but they do. And they're watching in the way in which that I'm advocating for people. And also,
and that's probably helping them to some extent as well.
There we go. So there are so many people in our tribe that we don't even know are struggling with some of the same things that we are, but just them being a part of your tribe gives them the strength to have that connection and get that courage to have some of that information.
Now, just feeding off this, what does then dating look like for you? I mean, do you tend to date within the tribe, outside of the tribe? What does that look like?
I've never. Dating is always something that I'm like. It's so interesting because I usually share everything about my life, but I never talk about my dating life. And recently I tried that, and it blew up in my face. And so now I'm back to like, it did. It blew up. And my entire social media career, I've never posted about one boyfriend. And I recently did this year with my boyfriend of 4 years. And he cheated. He cheated, and it was bad. And
so he's gone now.
The day I found out, it's like I don't post only because I respect myself so much, and I can't allow anybody else to disrespect me. But anyway, so dating for me looks like I've never had a problem with dating, if I'm honest, and that's not like being arrogant, but the men that I like are.
I mean, have you seen yourself? Hello, hi, hi.
But I don't. You're so cute. I love you. But I don't feel like this. I mean, I'm not saying that I don't always feel attractive, and I think that like that's when I say like the insecurity, right? And so I am not someone that wakes up every day and goes like, oh my God, I'm beautiful.
I'm gorgeous.
I'm gorgeous. Not because I shouldn't, but because to society, I'm not, right? It's subjective, of course, but if I look on social media and see all of the men that are posted, all the MCMs, all of the profiles that are posted, I don't look anything like those men. And so and I'm in a community that is also telling me that they love me and support me and respect me, but who you're looking for and who you want, that's not what you're showing.
So,
And so I think that's opposite of what you are saying to me. And so I think that that's where a lot of my insecurities come from, because the
mhm.
accolades don't matter when it comes to looks.
Yeah,
And I think,
yeah.
and I think that that is something that I'm honest about and sharing about my story, is that I'm not necessarily not dating because I don't want to. It's because I'm still working on some aspects of myself first,
Mm,
some
mm,
self worth, some self love, some affirmations telling me or
mm.
letting me know or reaffirming that I'm beautiful, even when I don't feel
Yeah,
like it. Even when I'm not on nobody's TV screen or on a print ad, I'm still beautiful and worth it.
beautiful. I mean, as I always say, and a lot of people will say, another man food is another man poison. You
Oh,
know.
absolutely.
So we're all somebody's cup of tea out there.
We already, yes.
Wait, so within that dating aspect, when is there ever a right time to tell somebody that you're HIV positive, and what does that even look like? Because I honestly, I'm going to be honest here. I remember there was a time where a guy who was HIV positive approached me. It was on Grindr, another story that we need to talk about another day. But and to me, that was the first time that I'd been approached by somebody who was upfront and open about their status. And
Yeah,
honestly, it took me
you
aback
were sure.
because I wasn't really sure what that looks like and
Yeah,
how I would go about that relationship. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So, what does that look like to you, or what have your experiences been like?
I disclose often. I mean, I'm always the first. Okay, so see, dating. If I was light, I would be flustered. Okay, but
Mm,
dating. I'm still learning how to date, because
mm-hmm,
I've had times I've gone on dates where people have Googled me before
mm-hmm.
dates, and
So
and
then
then I
Google proceeds. Yeah.
and then I've had times where they've Googled me after dates when I didn't
Mm,
disclose. And so my thing is this: whether you disclose or not, that is entirely your business. That is up to you. No one can
mm-hmm.
force you into disclosing anything that you are not comfortable with sharing. That's
Mm.
up to you. Because I do believe that sexual health is 50%, half and half.
Yeah,
You
yeah, because it's
you know
always we always
why is the
these days
burden
we
on me?
recently make it a one-sided thing where the person with HIV has to disclose
No,
first. No, no, no.
no,
Let's sit down and you can also bring up the conversation and say, "Hey, this is my HIV status." You know.
absolutely. And that's my plan, Phil. Like, at the end of the day, it is my responsibility to take care of God first, and,
Mm.
and my sexual health and protecting myself. And then after that, it's my responsibility to make sure that you know all the things that you need to know before we get into a sexual relationship.
Uh huh. Uh huh.
That's just my perspective. But sometimes, you don't want to disclose too prematurely, and because the date may not even progress from the first date. So
Mm-hmm.
why,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so why am I disclosing all this tea about myself, and we're not even going to be on the same page?
Uh
But
huh. Uh huh.
in my regard, it's a little bit different, because people can easily Google me, and then like 10
Mm.
entries on Google will be like, "Guy, HIV. Oh, what is that?
Mm.
Living
Mm.
with
Mm.
HIV,
Mm.
positive life." So I'm kind of in this weird space of, like, meeting men in different, I guess, work fields, because like I'm now meeting people that like my rapping. They don't
Mm.
know me from HIV work.
Mm.
But
Mm.
now
Mm.
I'm
Mm.
still, even as long as I have been positive, I'm still kind of nervous. Like, oh shit, well, I
Mm.
like this guy, and I don't want to be, too forward and aggressive and be like, well, FYI, I have HIV, just so you know. But then
Mm.
I
Mm.
also
Mm.
don't want him to have to find out on the internet. So
Yeah. Oof. Yeah,
I,
you're in a very interesting
so I just
position.
don't date. So I just don't date, if I'm honest.
Mm.
I was with a guy for 4 years off and on, who we were friends for 10 years, really good friends.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
this, if I'm honest, this relationship really, it shook me up in different ways. It had me questioning
Mm-hmm.
myself, my value, my worth. And
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
think that if that is able to happen with someone else, then you don't really have a strong foundation. And
Mm-hmm.
so this
Yeah.
time, Guy is doing the work to work on himself, fix his shit, figure it out. And maybe I'll be ready to date within the next couple of years, but I'm not looking
Mm-hmm.
for anything. I got some internal work to do.
To do.
Um, and before I bring that upon anybody else, I got to talk to me and work on me first. And so that's where I am. So guys, I'm talking to guys, whatever. But,
Whatever.
but I got work to do, and I don't want
Yeah.
to bring my problems or my past relationship issues to you because you don't deserve that.
No, this is why I keep saying, like, I see a lot of similarities
I,
within your story. Like, I see it because after my last relationship, I said, no,
I don't
I
got
need
time.
time off. I got time, honestly. I think this is the time for me to just work on myself, do the work, as you say.
Yeah,
Um, Now
you know,
let's
right?
talk about Black. You look good.
Thank you, because I don't know. I'm trying to do this light thing, and I don't know if it's like working. But anyway,
Oh
we'll do
no,
it.
it's working. It's working.
Yeah,
It's
thank you.
working. Let's
Thank you.
talk about Black Hole and Gifted. What is that all about?
So Black Gifted and Whole.
Woo! Woo!
It's okay.
Oh!
It's okay.
Oh!
It's
Oh!
okay.
Let's talk about Black Gifted and Whole.
Sip
Oh,
tea.
he pulling up the match. Oh!
I don't
Oh,
play.
okay.
Yeah, I know. I know what's
You
up.
got the
No,
shoes too? The shoes, the
uh,
pants too?
baby, you don't even want to see these. They are aggressive, and but no. So okay. So essentially, like I started Black Gifted and Whole 5 years ago with a group of
Mhm.
friends. Um, and essentially, it just really started off in, I went to Michigan State for undergrad, and it was my dream school, and I couldn't finish because I couldn't afford to finish. And
Mhm.
it wasn't because I wasn't bright or smart or intelligent and can do the work. It was simply because I just didn't have enough money. And
Mm.
I always said to myself, I went to other schools after that, but it wasn't, they were no Michigan State.
Uh-huh.
And so I told myself that, like, if I get older and if I'm able to give back in any capacity to make sure another Black kid like me wouldn't have to go through that, that's what I'm going to do. And so
Mm.
as I've gotten older and got more, in tune with my gay, my LGBTQIA plus side, I said, you know what? There's a need, there's a gap. Black gay men, Black queer men, they don't have anyone guiding them from high school to college. And then
Mm.
the people that they meet in college either want to have sex with them or use them or exploit them. And so
Mm.
they don't necessarily have a pipeline outside of college after that. That's what we're going to do. And so
Mm.
essentially,
Mm.
what we've done is worked with. It was a little bit difficult, meeting Black queer men in high school just because of the stigma that comes along with being
Mm.
gay,
Mm. Mm.
right?
Mm.
And
Mm.
also our
Especially in high
community.
school. High school kids can be evil.
And so we looked up and actually found a a young Black queer man. I don't want to fuck up anybody's pronouns, so I'm off. Let me
Mm. Yeah.
say, let's do that. So we found them, and literally senior year in high school, worked with them. Just graduated Morehouse this year. So
Mm. Okay. Okay.
okay, so that's what I like when people are like, "What do y'all do?" I'm like, "Let me just show you. Let me give you an example of one of our success stories." So that
Mm.
we flew down to Morehouse because he didn't get accepted originally, and to me and my partner were like, "He's brilliant. They're brilliant. Why
Mm.
won't you allow them?" So we flew down there, had a meeting with the admissions counselors, all that. What
Oh
the Yeah, it
wow.
was giving
Listen,
back,
when you invest in something, you go win it.
and
You don't
they were
play.
our first. So we were all, like, look, we're gonna do this. Ended up
Mm.
having them repeal the admission, got them in, gave them $5,000-6,000 throughout their
Mhm.
entire school year, but also connected them to corporations, to media platforms, to BET, to wrote about them. So it's not just making sure that they are emotionally and financially secure,
Mm.
because we found out that that's just part of it. But that pipeline, that resource,
Mm.
that making sure that they know somebody in the field that they're already going into when they graduate, because we know how difficult it is to get a job right out of college. But now you have this kind of group of big brothers that are already in the field that you work in.
Yeah.
So we got you. And so, you know what, like I a lot of times I'm like stressing my head, you know, going crazy because I want it to be so perfect. But sometimes, like, you know, my VP Remington sits back and says, like, God, no matter what you are going through personally, like, you're still making sure that we are giving money to our babies. And we've given over $40,000 to close
wow.
to over 20 young Black queer folks.
Wow.
And not just like $4,000 for tuition, but doing a fundraiser, a GoFundMe for an additional $500 for room and board. Right? We gave $500 for room and board for someone else recently, and then we also just, one of our first graduates just applied to Harvard Business School. We paid that $75 application fee, and I wrote a letter of recommendation. You feel me? So it's the stuff that white folk have already, you know, that we don't have. And I'm going to make it my business to make sure that my babies, our ambassadors, have the same resources, if not more, than any other student, period.
That they're taken care of.
They're taken care of. And sometimes we lack because, you know, if I'm honest, the one thing about being, you know, Black and queer is that I don't have, you know, an emergency fund of like $20K sitting down and work on my passion project, Black Gifted and Whole. Black Gifted and Whole is a passion project. It does not pay me a salary. I make sure that everybody else gets paid. But in order for me to do this good work and make sure that even without funding that my employees get paid and you know, there's some way that Black Gifted and Whole still get the coin, I got to work a full-time job. So I work multiple jobs. Then at home, when I come home, or now I'm at home, I'm working on BGW. And then I also am an artist, so I'm writing raps and writing poetry. And so sometimes it gets to all be too much. But then when I hear from, you know, Jawan Durden, who was our first ambassador, who just graduated Morehouse with BA and then applies to Harvard Business School, I'm like, this is why I'm doing it.
It's a reminder that this is why I'm doing this. I'm changing someone's life, because there's nothing bigger than having an impact in somebody else's life at all.
That's all I care about. And I don't care about all the, you know, the articles of fame. Like, you know, I am someone that does not faze me. I'm gonna do the same work I've been doing, if there's an article written about it or not. You know, and I think that is my call to action for our community. Just do the work, and if the notoriety and the, you know, and the fame, I don't even want to say fame, but if the accomplishments, accolades come from just doing the work, then you've done your job. You're good. But don't focus on those accolades. Just do the work.
Yeah, do the work. Do the work. At the end of the day, it's all about the work. I think a lot of people get sucked in with the accolades. You know, it becomes the fancy lifestyle. They think of the, you know, the titles, when in actual fact, you end up losing track of what it is you set out to do at the beginning of this and what your mission was, you know. Now, to wrap up, I have one final question for you.
Okay.
Drifting back to rebranding HIV, debunking the stigma, and restoring hope. What are some of the steps you have taken to empower yourself and reclaim your life? And I guess we could say, what are the top 3 pieces of advice you would give to someone to keep them sane and moving forward past getting that diagnosis?
I think I would say protect your peace. I've not thought about this. You've not asked me these things, but I'm really thinking about some of the things that I have been implementing in my own life that I feel like I can impart. Protect your peace. Do your own thing on your own terms and get what you came here for. And find your tribe. These 3 things have literally saved my life. I found my tribe. No matter how low I get or feel, I have about 10 people plus family members that I can
Mm.
call on for a pick me up, and I got that. I'm so blessed in that regard. And do your own thing, because this is your life. Do your own thing on your terms. I'm not waiting or looking to anybody else on how they live their life. I'm going to be focused on how to live God's life and really protect your peace. I cannot express this enough. Protect the peace that you have. Only your opinion of you matters. That's it.
Matters. I think this advice as well goes beyond just living with HIV, but
I agree.
in life in general. Well, oh my gosh, that was a great interview. I felt like
wow. You're wonderful at this. You are wonderful.
Thank you.
You're wonderful.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Guy. Thank you for joining us on this first episode. I think we are definitely going to have you back on here, because I feel like there's a lot that you and I can unpack in regards to being Black and queer. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you on Facebook. I'll link your social media down below. Your BGW, we will link that as well. And hopefully, we'll stay in touch. Thank you for joining us for today. Thank you. Bye.